Well, Kev, you want to get us introduced?
Yeah. Today we've got Jeff Ragan. I'm pronouncing that right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's a really nerve-wracking part when, like, you've known somebody for a long time, but you're like, I think I say their name right,
I'd rather ask and be embarrassed to ask as opposed to
say it wrong.
Butchering it the whole time.
Yeah.
I always mean to ask before, but I always forget. We get talking and I get excited about the episode, but today we have Jeff with Kize Concepts with us. We have, we've gotten the pleasure to know you since we started getting into business in 2015. I think, you guys started a little bit before we did. Yeah. I've got a funny story, but I'll start by kind of talking about everything that you guys do today. Obviously, Kize bars are everywhere.
I was going to say, did anybody listening to this, you have seen a Kize bar,
right? And I bet a lot of people at this point now, with as big as a company is, I bet there's a lot of people that don't necessarily realize that it's an Oklahoma-based company. Man,
I tell people that all the time, actually.
Yeah. Or do you have people that
yeah, they like the Kize bars and they're like, oh, these are really good. I'm like, yeah, that's actually like Oklahoma based. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's.
I guess the downsides of getting
it's funny, right?
getting bigger. But man, obviously you guys have grown just Kize into be a phenomenal company. Obviously you guys do a ton in the wholesale space, and have even gotten into making some other companies' bars, which are really cool. Some very, very reputable companies, at least within the supplement industry. So from our perspective, man, like that's been super, super cool to see. And obviously I don't know how much I'm allowed to divulge as far as
We'll figure that out.
We can always edit.
There may be some edits. Yeah.
But I'll start off by telling a quick story of when we got to meet you. It was Chad Miller and myself. We were at, I think it was a 5K run, because we were doing any and every event we possibly could in Oklahoma City when we first opened up, because we didn't have any customers. We were trying to create some customers. And we were at this 5K event, and we look across at, I think there was only one other vendor there, and it was Jeff. And you had samples of the Kize bars. And I don't think I'll ever forget this, because I think you just had a poster with marker written on it. And we went over and tried the bars that you guys were making. And it was like, these bars are really good. And then we got to start talking to you about the ingredients and all the attention to detail on your sourcing. And that's where we really were bought in on Kize bars and picked up as much as we could pretty much immediately. Yep. So, but it's cool to remember that story, especially, seeing you guys in every grocery store in town and seeing you guys in other places of the country and just remembering that story back when Jeff had his poster with his marker on the table.
Oh, man, no, there's no telling. I'm glad you have a better memory than I do. I was like, oh gosh. Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I know it's been a long time, and I remember because you're like from Missouri or somewhere, mm-hmm. right?
St.
And
Louis.
I was, yeah. So I was like, I loved seeing you out and hearing what you're doing, because obviously I could relate. And a lot of people, again, like they talk the want, like, oh, I want to do this, or it's more of a wish. And it's like you actually took the sacrifice and like did it and like moved your life and went for it. And again, for me, like you were doing it the right way, and I love that. And you just want to like befriend, partner, support, serve, help however you can, because you were like, we're going to go be one with the people and like try to help. And like, how many people want to work Saturdays? Not a lot of people. Yeah. When are all the events? Saturdays.
Yep.
So it's like, again, it takes what it takes. You got to do what you got to do. And most people aren't willing to do that. So I was always just like I'm from here, and it's still incredibly hard, right? Again, to say people don't know you. They still don't know. And we've been around for over 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was always just amazed at that. And again, seeing all the events and again, just the service and the attention to detail. And it's been so awesome to watch you guys grow. And so this was super fun. I know we haven't got to see each other in a while and time flies, but just I always remember, for me, the most meaningful people. It's like, who is supporting? Like, you've been supporting since 2015. People say whatever else. I'm like, every single one of our local people really means more to me than some of the big ones because it's brick by brick, that builds it, right?
Yeah.
And you got to get traction somewhere. And so again, sometimes you have people like, oh, well, Sam's or Costco or Whole Foods or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, those are great. And like, they obviously give you, but I'm like, you don't get to those or learn the elements or the basics if it wasn't for all the local support and the people. So like, thank you to you and everybody else of Oklahoma City. I mean, again, I'm not working events on the weekend, putting marker board signs up anymore, somewhere else on the road or working somewhere else. But like I used to always say when people would say that, I'm like, it's because of all the awesome people of Oklahoma City, business people like yourselves and all the customers that allowed us to survive. Because like, I mean, I used to say all the time, like, it doesn't matter how much we care. It doesn't matter how much good we want to do in our people's lives, the community, the world, Haiti, whatever the stuff that we've done. I'm like, the people make the business. Yeah, because again, like we can care, but we can't go buy all the items, so.
It's super refreshing to hear, and not necessarily like we obviously appreciate the compliment, but it's super refreshing to hear because I think one of the things that we kind of you turning me down?
No, you're good.
One of the things that we kind of see within, I think, this space, and your space is similar, but obviously like a little bit different. But one of the things that we see within the supplement space is brands, as they grow, they sometimes seem to forget that, they forget the brick by brick, the relationships and the people that got them certain places. And, I think you guys have done a really good job because I think people genuinely underestimate how hard it is to grow a company eloquently, right? And to like stay true to yourself and stay true to your values and stay true to like what got you here, you know what I mean? And so it's super cool to hear your perspective on that because you guys have gotten so big. Because I think we see a lot in the supplement industry, companies make the same mistakes over and over again. And what that is traditionally like the smaller supplement stores that you had the personal relationship that helped you grow, get you somewhere, and then they have an opportunity at potentially like a big box thing, and they just turn and give the middle finger to like everybody that like helped them get to that point. And so to hear your perspective on it and like your love and appreciation for, everybody that got you guys to kind of where you are is super cool to hear, man, because I think it's really easy for not just supplement brands, but just brands in general to lose sight on that. And so it's awesome to hear it, from you of like how much you still appreciate all of the people of Oklahoma City and all of these things. Because again, man, I think it is easy for people to lose sight on that.
Yeah. And it's a very like two things that stood out. You said that one, like you have to stay true to your values. And a lot of times you may I feel like it's like, oh, like business school or like they do this, but I'm like, you don't really know what your values are until you've operated enough because your actions will show your values.
Amen.
Right? It's like, you can be like, oh, on the board and here's our list, but it's like, what do you do and what do those say?
When times get tough, what do you turn to?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not able to pay myself.
Yeah.
What's my options going to be?
Do you risk failing doing it right or try to squeak by doing it wrong?
Yeah. And I think like, I'll speak from our experience. So like when we started, I wish I had pictures. That's why the Mark Bell thing I was telling you about was super cool because I literally think he was the first guy that ever ordered something outside of the state of Oklahoma. And I'm like, don't even remember how, and it was in a plastic bag and I was hand feeding, knife. It wasn't even a bar at that point. It was like a big Kit Kat bar. Yeah. You could break me off a piece.
Yeah, right.
In a plastic, they were nasty in hindsight because, you don't know what you don't know. They're melting.
Right.
Anyway, but
he was ordering back then when it was in that packaging.
I'm pretty sure he was the first guy ever, and I didn't know who he was or anything with it.
That's crazy.
And I remember seeing it come across on like an online store that we probably just set up, and I'm like, how in the world is someone ordering from California?
It happens to be Mark Bell, who's been famous for years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great guy. And him and his wife, Andy, we had the pleasure of going up and meeting, and we just did this co-branding thing for the first time because I was like, well, why not? Like, there's like a 10-year relationship there.
Right.
And, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm like, let's do it. He wants to. And I'm like, sounds fun. Again, we can talk about that later. It's kind of an interesting process. But going back to like what you're saying, it's so hard to execute. Ideation versus execution, two different things. And for us, we had nobody with no experience. Not only do you have to figure out how to make an item, but then you have to figure out how to do all these other pieces, like you guys know too. And so like, I think what happens, just to give a little grace, not saying for everyone, I know people give us the middle finger too on things of doing that. You try to jump through hoops backwards to help them with something, and then it's like, meh, you're like, oh, okay. that really hurts.
Yeah, right.
It does. It does
like that hurts my feelings, but now you're just used to it.
Yeah,
so,
amen.
It's like I was actually doing one of our guys' wedding the other night, and I was prepping for it, and basically saying like, I'm not married, but saying that marriage is going to be hard, and I just had the sign of like, hard times can make hardened people, or hard times can make strong people. And kind of in the response.
Yeah.
And it's like, like weight training, it's like you tear it down.
Right.
Like you got to go through that resistance and pain, but like a lot of people can be hard, and then you're hurt. Someone screwed you, so then you screw people. It's like, we don't operate that way. Like we've been screwed many a times. Right. And
it's tough to not be that way.
I'm sure people think we do that to people, and I'm sure there's a lot of choices we wish we'd done better, but perspective and anything. But, getting out, I'm like, I remember we were going through this inflection point, and just being honest, like, you don't know what you don't know. And then your systems, what works from this size to this size doesn't work from this side. The values can go with you, but a lot of the operational things have to change. Right. And so it's like, we would prefer if we could go drop off every order and do everything. But like at some point, like we can't do that. Right. Because we can't get anything else done. Anyways, you just get scattered, and you kind of have to have those painful moments. And then you have to figure out how to still serve and communicate that too with your people. Right. Because like, hey, we have 5 people. We're making the product. We can't distribute, and some people want like, we were doing this earlier on. It's like, hey, can you come drop off 3 boxes? It's like, okay, well, we have to make 3,000, and we have 9,000 other things to do, and it's an hour and a half round trip, and we lose money on the gas just there.
Right.
And like, and it's fun, and we love talking. And again, we always say relational, not transactional.
Yeah, same.
But anyways, it's just like, we're still trying to learn. It's like, how do you deal in multiple states when it's like you said, items like we were talking in your warehouse, it's like, well, all the product's been ruined because it went to a distributor that went somewhere else and it wasn't kept, and then someone's and it's like, it's all hard, but you just continue to learn. And, again, Kize is a word I made up, derived from, kind of a personal values of just continuous improvement and, changing lives for the better is our mission, but just got to keep improving, and you usually get that through a painful moment, or like a non-ideal situation.
Amen.
So it's always like, okay, how do we digest that, process that, but how do we improve from that? Again, it's like, can't change it.
Right.
How do we learn from it and try to move forward? Right. So, but yeah.
Well, again, kudos to you though, because I'm sure, maintaining that mindset is one of those things that, is awesome to see, because I think it's like you said, like you don't really know your values until you're in it. And I think that's one of the things that even just in this conversation and just knowing you as long as we've known you, but it's like, it's cool to see those things shining through so much still.
Yeah. And I think to me, it's like the fun part is always the people part, and what the fun, you said the value shining through and seeing that, and that's awesome. But I think like the feedback that I get that's most meaningful, or the things that I see, are when values that I know I and we stand for, and people see that. So it's in alignment, right? That's huge. And then when I see that passed on through our people, that makes me most happy and proud of going, we had a moment 2 weeks ago. They're late on a Friday. People are gone. There happens to be 2 people. A truck delivery shows late. Truck driver comes in. Our guy's taking care of him. I'm doing something else, but I'm out there in the warehouse, and our building is across from the largest homeless shelter in Oklahoma City. So a lot of our neighbors, our property, it's very dense homeless. Again, hey, we're here to love and serve our neighbors and help. And it was wild to me because I kind of forget, but the driver was so amazed. So a homeless guy comes up, our guy talks to them, takes care of them. We feed them bars, you need any water, whatever. And I remember watching, I think it was like FedEx Freight or somebody, and he was like amazed. And it was so cool for me. And then it was Chris Hale. I don't know if you ever met him, but he was like, yeah, that's our mission, changing lives for the better, food service and charity. I mean, we're here to love and serve. That's why we're down here. And we want to make a difference, any day, any way, however we can. And it was awesome because I'm like, that was being love in action. That was being a servant-hearted person.
Right.
And that guy saw the difference in his actions.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing it for again, no one else was around. There was just, and so like, that was just a big moment for me. I'm like, I want us to get bigger and make all this impact and do that. But I'm like, if his life is better, because he's learned and he could live that out a little bit, then like
he got to see it firsthand, like those.
And he said it to me because I went back on Monday because it really stuck with me. And I went back on Monday and I was like, hey man, like I just wanted to tell you, like I saw what you did and I heard you. And like, I'm just really proud of you, and you've come a long way. And, if you've known his story and his personality, and he's awesome, but I was just it was like a proud dad moment, and I was just like, that's why we're here, So we want to sell bars and stuff. But again, when we say changing lives for the better, we look at that in so many different ways.
Right.
And those are like those meaningful moments. So it's like, I just want to do more of that.
You're not just looking at changing the customers' lives, the people that are buying the bars and paying you. It's you're not just, pretending to be about it, you're actually about it. And man, we try and do pass a similar mindset along to our employees. So that's super cool that you got to see that firsthand. But a big thing for us is we obviously get deliveries at every store and get deliveries here all the time as well as and I think it's easy to after you've taken so many customers throughout the day to be worn out, and when the mailman shows up and has a couple of packages for you just relax and take it easy and whatnot. But a big thing for us that we pass along to all our employees is hey, they are the people that are taking care of our packages. Like they're taking care of the products that we're selling to our customers. Like hook them up with a water, man. Like let's continue to have that mindset of hey, we obviously do quite a bit to offer the best possible customer service that we can. Let's make sure that we're staying in a mindset that we just do that with everybody. We're not doing it picking and choosing which people that we're being really nice to and giving the best service to. It's we're just here to at least when you're on shift, man, like that's just the mindset towards everybody. And I think that's been a great example for us, or something to kind of set the tone of like when a delivery person comes in, like hook them up with a water, like ask them if they need anything. So
oh yeah, I mean that it makes me think when we used to go to Haiti forever, and we would come back and people would be like, I'm trying to remember, it'd be like, oh my gosh, that's great, like I want to help people like that, but I can't go to Haiti. And I'm like, hey, like we do that like 1 week a year and it's a big deal and it's whatever, but I'm like, it's the same heart, it's the same mentality, it's the same, again, and you can take it into little moments every day. I'm going, open your eyes, open your ears, open your mind, open your heart, open your hand. And again, very simple. How can I help? Or again, ask yourself that question without even asking, how can I help this person? And again, you'd be amazed because same thing. You need water? Do you need bar? Do you need coffee? Do you need to use the bathroom for the people that are dropping off this stuff? Right. And again,
how's you need to borrow the dolly?
How's your day going? You want us to come hop in the truck and basically unload this for you? Right. So you can rest or stand, whatever. And it's like, that stuff goes a long ways. And that's kind of what I was saying, like kind of about the Chris story with that of like, this guy, that's what he does. He goes and interacts with customers when he drops off freight, right? And he was amazed. And it was literally a 30-second interaction. But he's been, and he was like, oh yeah, most people, shoo him off and do whatever. So he was amazing. I'm like, that's the type of radical generosity and very just simple moments of being loving human to human, treating people the way you want to be treated and better. And like, again, I guarantee you that guy's day was better. And my hope is next time he had interaction with someone, then he was a little more generous. Yeah. Oh, wow. In your case, wow, someone offered me a water and I'm somewhere else and I see someone, do you want that? And again, that's how we're making it a better place, right? So
it's crazy because like you said, it's, and I know this is your point, but it's not big trips to Haiti all the time.
Yeah.
It's as simple as caring about, it's hot out there. Toss somebody a water bottle who's in a air conditioned, I'm giving air quotes for everybody just listening, an air conditioning, UPS truck or something. It's like, man, hang out in the air conditioning for a little bit. You use the bathroom. Like, man, it is crazy how like, one of the big things that we do, and not to toot our own horn here, but around like Christmas time is for all of our delivery drivers, Alyssa puts together these little Christmas bags and they have just like snacks and stuff. And now we've kind of gotten to a point financially where we can actually put like a little bit, we put some like Triad gift cards in there, and it's just like, hey, you guys like work your butt off for us all the time. And like, you'll hand it. I remember it was our mail guy. We recently gotten a new one. The new guy's nice too, but I'd given him, this was not this last Christmas, I think before that, I gave him his like Christmas bag and he's like, is this for me? And I'm like, yeah, bro, like it's for you. Like you work your butt off to like, you show up. We're kind of inconvenient because like the post office is pretty close. And so when they are starting their route, we're not open yet. So it's like they can't hit us as soon as they get on their route. They have to come back at the end of their route sometimes, or like in the middle of the day. And so we're like not the most convenient people. And like we appreciate and understand that. And like we got a boatload of packages, right? Like we're always getting shipments from everything. And it's like this dude was like so taken aback by like the fact that we were just like, dude, it had like I had like a beef stick in it. You know what I mean? Like it was nothing crazy, but he's like, I can't tell you how many stops I make where the people are so mean to me. And I'm like, what? Like that's craziness.
That
like
kills me.
You're the mailman. Like you're there providing a service and like getting someone their stuff. And like people are and he's like, no, you guys are like by far the nicest people we stop. And I'm like, bro, like I'm thinking about like we do like nothing. Like I don't understand. Like the bar has to be pretty low if a bottle of water and a beef stick on Christmas is like this dude's like choking up talking to us. Like, bro, like this is crazy, But it's one of those things though where you're so right. Where it's like people just get so into this routine and then this like one day where it's like it doesn't have to be these big like you always hear these stories or parables when it's like when I'm here I will this, when I get to this point I'll be this.
It's a lie.
And it's like no, it doesn't have to be this big like we understand that going to Haiti or traveling for a mission trip or something, it can be expensive, and it's like but you can help your neighbor tomorrow if you like you said open your eyes and your mind and your heart and your hand, like then it's always there and available
always.
Yeah,
that was a big thing I learned from Chad and Vincent when we were first starting and obviously having to put a lot of money in the business and go through some periods of time where we weren't paying ourselves, and both of them were very adamant about they're both very, very religious and are big on donating to the church. And it was just kind of like, it was interesting to me to see them at periods of time where it's like, man, like we like are not sure if we are going to have like any money to like buy food like for ourselves, and you guys are donating to the church. I'm like, wouldn't you guys like I remember asking Vincent about this, just genuinely curious of like, man, like that's just interesting to me. Like wouldn't this be a period of time where maybe you focus on just making sure yourself survive, like you just are able to cover the bare minimums for yourself, and then once we get to a little bit more stable point, then you can have a lot more to be able to donate to the church. And he's like, it's about building the habit now that if I always build the habit of doing 10% or 20% or whatever they do is it's not a lot now, but it's like I still have enough to have a roof over my head and food in my mouth, and I can give 10%.
Yeah.
And if I build that habit now, when I do make it, and I am making a lot more financially well off, that 10% will mean a lot more to that, or will be a lot more to that church.
Yeah.
So
no, that's incredible. And I mean, I've gone through similar experiences, and then talking with people on that, whether from a business perspective or personal or tithing or donating generous. And I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I've said. It's like, it's a heart habit, and it's like anything else. Like it starts in the heart, it starts inside out. You got to do it. And it's like, what happens is, like you said, oh, when I get to this a little, I mean, I was on the Mark Bell podcast and they asked me about that, and I don't remember what I said, but it was the same thing. He's like, I meet all these people and then they make lots of money. And then they don't really know what to do. But then late in life, then they think they need to figure out how to like go be generous. And I can't remember what I ever said, but it's kind of the same thing. I'm like, dude, every day there's people out there every day.
Right.
It's not that, like, that's not it. Like, yeah, that's great. But I'm like, you're almost like looking for a tax write-off only at that point. And you've missed your whole life of living a generous, free life, not worried or stressed or burdened by these financial things. And there's a freeness and there's a lightness that you can give that. And again, like, it's fun to give. Like, real living is giving. And like you said, I gave him a beef stick.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Right. And you add that in little things like this is funny too. Like, you know, we started going to trade shows, and usually it's in like California or, you know, somewhere else. And they're like, you're not from around here, are you? And I'm like, oh, is it the accent? It's like, no, you opened the door for somebody and you said hi, or like, how are you doing to someone? And you seem very genuine about caring how someone's doing. I'm like, this is insane that this stands out, but it does. And I'm like, you know, anyway, but yeah, that same thing. I mean, that's my encouragement for everyone. I'm like, dude, start giving. You can give your time, your energy, your attention, your money, whatever, tithe that, donate it, give it, however you look at it, but you reap what you sow. It will come back in one way, shape, or the other. And I used to call it the UROI. It's the unavoidable return on investing in others. That's just how it's created, right? And just recognizing that and living from that place. And then, like you said, like, oh, guess what? You guys are still around. Hey, guess what? You still, you know, you made it, and like, all is well, and people are impacted. So
go ahead.
Those delivery drivers are going to come back and probably be a lot more excited to stop at your place and drop off your packages. And again, you're not nice to them for selfish reasons, but when they come back in, you might be their favorite stop throughout the day, and they're pumped to come back in. And if you're having a bad day, they come in excited and might brighten your day up. So it hopefully gets paid forward, but it's inevitably going to come back as well.
And that's kind of why I call it that URI. It's like it. Once you recognize it, it's like you are going to benefit in that. It could be the day that you're off and they're right. And that was what you needed that day. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, it's really
interesting because I think you see it also kind of specifically what you we're bringing it back to kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier is I think, you know, I know in my personal experience, I've seen people with that same attitude when it comes to, like business or caring, or I had a situation one time where I had a friend who, a guy I knew, is probably a better way to put it, where it was like, he didn't really do much at work. And it was always the talk of like, yeah, but whenever I own my own, that's when I'm going to really care. And that's when I'm going to really start working hard. And it was always like, you know, it's such an interesting perspective. And I think you'll have that, like, we're really blessed with our staff and we have zero complaints. And so, but it's just, I've talked to other people that I've known, acquaintances or whatever, when they're like, yeah, but like, you know, now I'm just kind of like doing whatever, but when I'm manager, then I'll really like, and you're like, that's not how it works. Like, you either care now or like there's not some magical switch, like once you own a location versus managing a location, or once you're just like a base level employee versus a manager, where you think this like care switch is going to happen. It's not. You either care now and you do the things that you need to do now, or you're going to wake up as an owner watching yourself not do it then either, because it was never something that either you made a priority or a habit or something that you ever actually saw the value in. And so it's really interesting because I think that, like, again, it's not always big things. It's just, you know, finding ways to care every day that will get you further in your business get further in whatever.
Yeah, I always say to our team, have rare care.
Right.
You know, have rare care. Little things make big things, and little things become the big things. And so, again, you can have rare care, attention to detail and everything. Again, see that person. They're off. And this is a small one, just learning, hey, how are you? Their response 90% of the time lets me know where people are. So I'm doing great. I'm just okay. Press into it.
Right.
What's wrong? What's going wrong? What's top of mind? What's front of heart? What's going on? that's rare care that goes a long way, that
Right.
again takes 30 seconds, and you'd
Yeah.
be amazed at what people open up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just opening up is freeing, especially guys.
Yeah.
Guys don't want it. Well, what is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have feelings.
Yeah, right. What are you
Right?
talking about?
And it's like, I've just tried to cultivate that and have that growth,
Yeah.
like in my 20s and 30s, of being like, hey, like, let's be real. Because at the end of the day, I want what's best for you and you.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we can't be real, raw, open, vulnerable, it doesn't matter. But if you can make people feel comfortable, like, I want everyone to know, you can tell me anything.
Right.
You can tell me you hate me, you want to kill me,
Right.
shoot me, cuss me out, X, Y, and Z. I've had worse.
Yeah.
But it's gonna go, okay, well, why do you feel that way?
Right.
And again, how can I help? What's one thing I can do?
Right.
And like, again, that's just caring.
Yeah.
For me. And it's like, you mentioned the other thing about, people in all those stages. And it's like, care is like, stands out to me in character.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not how it's spelled
right.
in that, but it's like, well, what's your character and integrity? And in that moment, again, sadly, a lot of people equate work. I work to make money. I work for me in doing that. And it's like, I just think it robs a lot of people, A, of the fulfillment of work, but B, again, okay, if you do get into that moment, more than likely you're not going to have a culture that cares about people, and you're going to have a terrible time. And you may make it work and you may make money, but I would guess it's not going to be satisfactory and meaningful. And I've seen a lot of people go through their entire life actually hit whatever financial or career thing, and they're miserable.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's been actually something I've been and I'm starting to implement it a lot more. Or I'm at least like thinking I know I need to. I've started to implement it at least a little bit. I think especially with my personal transition from not being in the store to transitioning into the back end, where honestly, like, being upfront with customers kept me in a pretty positive mood, because you kind of have to force yourself into that customer service mindset, and then it just kind of bleeds into everything else, which is nice. It it kind of helped force you to kind of be in that positive mindset. But with transitioning more and having more responsibilities, where I'm not upfront talking to the customers, I can definitely get to be just a kind of a business mindset, where it's just like, I just got to focus. I got to get the work done. I got to answer certain things. I got to figure out certain problems. I got to work on certain details of certain orders, or, find new marketing. And I definitely need a decent amount of time like that myself. I really like time working alone. But obviously still have to be at different locations and have to be around other people here. And I think it's very easy for it to come across as I'm not in the best mood, or it's like, hey, I promise I'm just trying to focus. And as much as I would love to just hang out and talk with you guys all day long, there's definitely a lot of people here where I could just hang out and talk with all day, but I don't get any work done that way.
Yeah.
So my shortcut, or my way around that, I've learned fairly recently, is when I'm communicating with people, or like I'm just around people, and we're it's all about the business. We're figuring out details. It does seem like the conversation can kind of get pretty dull, and it's like, I don't have a whole lot of time to just sit here and BS with you. But I've learned, if I just throw in, at least at the end of it, like, hey, how are you doing? And we could talk for 3 to 5 minutes, and they will be in such a much more positive mood after that. Just being able to communicate, hey, it's not all business. We care about each other, has been my shortcut recently. And I'm like, man, I should probably implement this more with more people.
Yeah. Well, and those are hard learnings, because the balance of that, again, like, I mean, at Kize, we have, we don't have a problem having fun and chatting and doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's a fine balance. I've, again, trying to re-clarify values as you learn. It's like, you want a fun place. It's like, we want to work hard, having fun, or having fun while working hard. And like, again, how do you clarify what that balance is? But yeah, it's been interesting. And like, I relate to what you say. Like, people think you're in a bad mood. I'm like, no, it's just, I'm focused, and there's a thousand things going on. And like, I can't just chum it up times 20 people, times 20 minutes a day, or you never get anything done. Again, everyone goes home. I stay here till 7 or 8 o'clock. And, that continues. But one, advice, let them know this is what my focus face looks like. So this is seriously.
Yeah.
This is a teaching
No, I
moment.
like it.
I'm not mad. I'm not whatever. I'm focused. So again, it's a way to teach people, hey, have social awareness, have emotional intelligence. Hey, see that. And then again, try this with me. Come and catch me at the end of the day, or come and catch me at these times. Or again, if someone's interrupting, sometimes they just interrupt. Recognize, hey, I'll talk to you right now and I'm good, but like it would be freeing to me if I could get this done for the greater good of everybody, but then come back and find that. And again, that's hard because it's like, but I also feel like I've been a therapist some days for a lot of times, and I actually think I embrace that role and I like that, and it's needed. And I mean, it's been amazing the things people have told you in your office, and so it's like, you still want to make space for that too. And again, that's just part of the sacrifices nobody ever teaches you about, I guess, being a caring
It's a heavy load,
entrepreneur.
man.
It's a heavy load, but it's part of the load. And again, it's like, again, I go kind of back to the hard times make hard people. You get people, again, you get cold and distant, and like the world's already trying to do that anyways. You don't want to happen in your building or in your business or whatever. So again, it's like,
I'm learning how easy that can happen, and I'm learning ways around that to again, like you said, still find that balance of working hard but having fun and caring about each other.
Yeah. And the one other thing I would say is, you mentioned, because this was a struggle for me, you're in the store, you're interacting, you're serving, you're feeling good. Because of that, you have this growth step, and now the need for you is not in the store. I struggle with that too, because it's like, I love talking to people. I'd love to be on the Saturday event and doing whatever. And it's like, we did these road shows for Costco in Dallas when we launched some stores down there, and it was like 4 days straight and like 8, 10, 12 hours a day. But it was like, it was great. It's busy the whole time. You're talking, and I was just like, man, I am really charged up right now, and it just feels timeless. But then you're like, oh, well, I've got to have 400 unread emails, and 90 big decisions, and 20 people want your time. And it's like, it's just a hard thing to continue to learn and do that. And it's just
Get it all done and still get hopefully a little bit of sleep.
Yeah. One of the things you said earlier really stuck out to me, because we're kind of in a, we're always doing customer service training, but that's kind of one of the things that I will actually go around and like set some time out to like go and be in the other stores to kind of help with additional customer service training. And, there are a couple of things that kind of stuck out to me. Like the rare care comment that you made was, when you ask somebody how they're doing that day, is like to double down, because you'll say like, hey, how's it going today, man? And they'll be like, oh, I'm just like looking for, whatever. And you're like, oh, cool. Yeah. We got that right over here. But like, how's your day going? And they're all like, I can't tell you how many times people be like, oh, man, actually, like it's been a really good week for me. And it's like that doubling down just shows like, I know that that's like typically a shallow question, but I actually mean it. Yeah. Like, how are you actually, like, how is your day? Like, what have you been up to? How is work? Like, how are you doing? And I think that's one of those things that is unfortunately rare, where it is like, when I'm asking this question, like you have to show that you mean it genuinely. And for us, like one of the signs of like a good interaction, I always feel like when it comes to customer service is, we've talked about a bunch of things. Like we've made samples, you got to mix stuff up, like we're doing this whole thing, we've had this whole long interaction. And I always like tell people that those interactions don't happen on question 2, they happen on question 7. So when you give up on question 2, you never even had the opportunity to get there. And so having the willingness, even if somebody is a little guarded or a little bit like, not wanting to open up, it's like, that's your opportunity. You can open up, you use that as a time, if you're asking somebody like, hey, up to anything fun this weekend? And they're like, oh, no, you're like, oh man, isn't that the best weekend? I've been so busy recently. Like, man, having a weekend off would be great. My fiance and I, we're planning a wedding right now. And so it's a lot of work and it's kind of eating up a lot of the free time, but we're so excited. It's super cool. And how many times after that exact thing, they go, okay, oh my God, like, when are you getting married? Like, where's the wedding going to be? And now it's like, because I showed a sign of vulnerability. I opened to show you that, like, I genuinely care enough about your life. And I took your answer as doing nothing really this weekend as your honest response. I'm here to be vulnerable as well and open up and talk to you. And it's like, that's when those long interactions happen. And that's when you can really create those relationships.
And again, it goes back to the reaping what you sow, right? You got to give it to give it.
Right.
So it's like, oh, you want vulnerability, except for you're unwilling to give it. Okay, be a leader, then lead with it.
Right.
I'm struggling today, honestly. It's not my best day, but I would really like to talk to you on the other person in the store. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, you know, and it's like, you know, again,
but people crave that.
Well, we're made to be relational.
Right.
We're made to be together.
And it's so shut off in person anymore too.
I know.
And so I think, like, again, like that rare care, I really like that, because it is like, man, it is that, like, like, I know that you took this as like just a whatever question, but I genuinely mean it. Like, how are things going? Like, how, and those are like kind of referring back to what Kevin was talking about earlier. It's, you see that, and when you do that over and over and over again, you can, you know, we're really blessed, and I feel personally very blessed when I can tell I'm someone's favorite stop of that day.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they're the mailman or a customer or somebody just stopping through, it's like, I love that we can create an environment. Wish we could do it more than we do. You know, you always want to be able to do it as much as you can, but it's like, I feel super blessed that we have the opportunity to create an environment where we're someone's favorite stop, because we're genuine, because we actually care, because we're willing to ask the question, show vulnerability, whatever that is. Like, we get to, we have that opportunity to somebody come in, and, you know, I had a customer the other day who I've been working with for a while, and we've been doing some different, like, nutrition changes and some stuff for him. And he's a big time runner, and so getting to change some of his stuff. And he was like, you could tell he walked in, he was just so excited to come in to just like talk and, you know, talk about everything that's been going on in his life. And, you know, even, you know, he was talking to me and it was being really successful. And then he was like, oh man. And, you know, my wife actually, like, you know, I know his wife too. And he's like, she actually recently hurt her hand. She has to have surgery. And I'm like, oh no. But it's like, the obviously that's an unfortunate situation, but the fact that he feels comfortable to come in, and like before he left, he was like, oh, I need to tell you about what happened, you know, with my wife. And I'm like, that makes me feel so special, as like you're not a customer, you're just my friend, you know, and you're somebody that I have this relationship with, that you're willing to come in and tell me even an unfortunate situation going on in your life, while everything else seems to be going good. What you and I are personally working on is going very positive, but you guys had like a hiccup life-wise, and you're like, but you're willing to just like bring that vulnerability to it as well. It's like, man, like you can't get you can't get excited about that. Like, I don't know what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's got to be my favorite part about this job.
Yeah, that's one thing I always loved about your guys' business is you get the one-on-one with the end customer. So you have a great chance to really impact people's lives in that moment, in that day. And again, being so servant-hearted and seeing that go out, like, you have a growing relational network across the metro. And again, it's like, I can't remember, it's been a while, but I'm like, you literally can't go anywhere without seeing people wear a Triad shirt, you know? And I'm like, you know, that was cool, like, man, the greatest thing of all time. But I'm going, you guys know the Triad guys? You guys know those guys are great. You know, again, you don't, you know, I'll engage someone every once in a while. Oh yeah, you know, you go whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, I knew Kevin or whatever. And it's like, it's super cool. But again, that's a testament to that care. And, you know, one thing I would say, just one I would add to that, because you said customer service training in that moment, again, take the word choice. If they say, okay, fine, whatever the other cliche answers, and go, you know, you can always say why, right? But then going, well, how could we get that to good? Yeah. What can I do to make it good right now? Right. Right. Oh, like that actually, because again, just asking back is like a pattern interruption, because most people, it's just a cliche that you say like, oh, how are you? Yeah, I'm having the worst day ever. And they go, I don't really care.
Yeah, don't bog me down with that.
You know? Right. But yeah, I mean, I think again, I don't get as much as it now, but again, when we do these kind of like road shows or trade shows, it's like, that's always our thing too. I'm like, we're going to be everybody's favorite booth, not because we spent the most money on it, because we haven't. We probably have the worst looking booth, you know, again, the sign. But
you guys still doing markers or?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, No, because we're going to care the most.
Right.
And you're going to know that. And we're not going to have to tell you that. You can just watch.
Right.
You know, and then we get people, you know, you go to some of these big shows and they're like, you guys have like the most fun booth. And I'm like, we just try to joy people up.
Right.
That's what we joy them up. Let's go give people joy today. Let's spread joy. Right. You know, it's like, all right, might as well have fun.
Yeah, we're going to be here no matter what. We might as well have fun.
Got to stand here for 10 hours.
Might as well enjoy it.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
Everybody else can be competitive on having the fanciest looking booth or the coolest stuff that they're passing out. But yeah, it's having just the fun people to be around, man. I bet you have way more people that are excited about being at your booth, man. And that's such a positive mindset towards what we do. And honestly, something that I didn't even necessarily think of because I've been working in supplement retail for over a decade now, but having a little bit of outside perspective of man, we get the opportunity to talk to most of our customers face to face.
Huge. I'm envious of that because we don't, and that's one thing I don't like about our space. We get disconnected, and I don't like it. Right?
It's one thing I've taken for granted a little bit, I believe, just because we've been in it for so long. It's like, man, and I think that's why we put so much attention on customer service is because, man, that is something that like we kind of have an opportunity within that not everybody else does. So let's do the best we possibly can with it more than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, because I'm curious, because I don't know if I know this. What kind of got a Kize started? What was why bars? Ooh. Why, I'm sure this is a short story probably, right?
Yeah. Well, you want the long story?
Yeah, hey, story? I mean, we're here.
Okay, so I was born in. No, so I usually start so I was in college, from Oklahoma City, born and raised, went to the University of Oklahoma. I was a entrepreneurship major, which doesn't mean much. People are like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. That's like the perfect connection. I'm like, no, I only say that because one of the cool things about the program when I was there at the time is they just brought in different business people like yourself, and they just kind of share their stories. And you just like cool. This, it's fun to hear people's stories, and you just get drawn in. And when you're 20, 21, 22, and you have no idea what you want to do with your life, and you're like, once the professional athlete dream is legitimately dead, you're like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know. I thought it was going to be in the NBA, NFL, and the MLB all at the same time.
Yeah, what happened? First guy to do all three.
That's right. That's right. So it's like, once that reality set in, you're like, oh, I don't know. But I think kind of that first question is like, well, I want to be successful. Mm-hmm. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
And so I think for me, coming off when I was graduating, everything bombed. There were no jobs. It was oh, I guess I'm going to move back home and live with my mom in her basement. With no, we don't have a basement. But, it was doing that, but it was a real blessing in disguise because it really helped me arrive at okay, what does that look like to me? And I think why I said I liked the entrepreneurship major is to me, the successful people were the people that made a difference. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the people that made the most money or did whatever. For me personally, what resonated, the different speakers, I was always drawn to the people that made a difference. And so I really kind of connected with really trying to answer these questions, what's my passion? What's my purpose? Strengths, and kind of going through all that. And I'd say probably after a 6 or 9 month period, I'm a notebook guy, old school, pen and paper, and really arrived at 3 things. Love helping people. Don't think anything's better than that. Loved health and fitness. Again, kind of what was a sports passion growing up, kind of transitioned into working out and food and all that. And again, people thought you were fit. So then they would ask you, and then again, you would have a chance to help people and speak into people's lives. Obviously you guys can relate to that. And then the third part, I liked entrepreneurship. I liked creating, we're all created in the image of the creator to create and use our gifts and passion to go help people. And so just putting all that together, I ended up getting a part-time job at Chesapeake Energy at the time. And then I ended up doing boot camps. My sister was at OU at the time. So I started, people always think this is cool. I did some boot camps at sororities at OU when I was 24 or whatever. It was really just because my
dream job right there.
Yeah. And that was fun. And then that kind of transitioned. And then I started doing what I would just call health coaching or life coaching, literally being relational like this. And it's okay, well, where are you? Where do you want to go? What's in the way? And let's get through that. And I'd say after a lot of that, I just kept getting well, I want to be healthier, but health eating sucks and I don't have time. And, it's well, that's not true. And I'm like, I always joke, Chef Jeff. I went Chef Jeff.
Right.
I'm not a chef. It's like put an Eggo in the toaster as a kid or a bowl of cereal. But I was making at the time what I kind of called like a no-bake oatmeal, which is basically just peanut butter and honey, protein and oats.
Right.
I tried to like convert that into like a cookie. That was a failure. And then I basically just put it in like a big pan in a fudge. I started giving it to people. It's, stuck together. It was cohesive. To me, 4 ingredients, balance, nutrient dense,
Right.
flavor was good, broad appealing. And I just kept getting good feedback. So honestly, I did that for about a year and a half or 2 years. Well, I ended up getting a full-time job at Chesapeake. So nights, weekends, lunch, I would go across the street to the Whole Foods and work for an hour at lunch on my laptop. And really just kind of had this vision or goal of like, I want to have a company that really loves and serves people and makes a difference with the direct product as well as indirectly connecting people on a bigger mission. And so you kind of said something at the beginning. I can't remember exactly what you said, Kevin, but yes, we want to help directly with clean, simple, nutrient-dense food while at the same time connecting to a mission bigger than themselves. So I'm doing good for me and I'm helping someone else. And again, you can feel good about that. And again, there's kind of this triangulated relationship between us, customer, and community that's like a win-win-win. So that was really kind of the goal. And then again, I can get way deeper into like how I think through about that then and kind of now, but that was really the idea. So I ended up taking the leap of faith, quit my job, no clue about anything. Like legitimately anything other than like I just felt led to do it and go that way. And so
did you realize at the moment that you didn't know, or were you feeling good? Because I always laugh back to us that we were like, we could open a car dealership, and like, God, no, we could not have.
Yeah.
I always say we thought we knew about 80% of what we needed to know for the business. In reality, we only knew about 20.
Yeah. So it's always funny. Like, luckily, it obviously things have worked out, but it always is kind of funny of like how confident were you? Because we were real confident.
Man, probably not that confident.
Yeah,
honestly,
we could do anything.
I always tell people this. Most people, in my experience, typically they're in the industry working for someone else, and then they quit to do their own thing because they think they can do it better. But they have that industri experience and knowledge.
Right.
I was working.
us,
I was working in oil and gas and went into food manufacturing and a brand, which are two completely different things. Neither of which I had any clue what I was getting into. But I really knew I wanted to help people.
There's oil and peanut butter,
and that was and could be some gas after.
What do you put in those guys?
I was asked, what's like the threshold that you? This was on the Mark Bell thing because he was like, yeah, we eat all this stuff, and he's like, yo, you have a couple of. I won't name what he was naming, but I'm like, oh yeah, gut, but anyway. Yeah. But I was to the point where, again, kind of going back to core values, I wouldn't have known to call them that at the time, but it was like, these are the things I know I can control. I'm like, I can work hard, I can do the right thing, I can treat people awesome, I can learn as much as I can, try to have fun, and through that, hopefully learn and grow. And I like held on to that like so hard between all the hard stuff, because again, it is just dark and gloomy and rejection and pain and pain and more pain, but we ended up getting a rented table, and it was perfect timing of this was in like 2012. If you know where the farmers market is in Oklahoma City, it's urban agrarian now, but it used to be Earth Elements, Entrepreneurial Kitchen, and Urban Agrarian. And it was Urban Agrarian in the front, and in the back, there was basically a small commercial kitchen, and you literally could rent a table, not much larger than that table right there. And so, rented time there, literally a mixer like you had. My stepdad and I bought a piece of plastic. It was the big bag I was telling you at first, but it eventually converted like to a bar after some feedback from a Whole Foods buyer. Like, this is too big, but I'll give you a chance if you can make it smaller and like hit this price. And I can tell that story too if you're interested. But bought a piece of plastic, somewhere not far on this part of town, cut it out with a saw, literally just was buying stuff at Walmart for ingredients and just trying to figure out hand mold it, hand pack it, do all that stuff, drop it off at the stores, do all the things.
Right.
So we did that for about 3 years, I would say, just kind of in the shadows in the farmer's market. I would say, probably seeing you around that time, we had probably gotten in Whole Foods or Sprouts, but we were still very just mostly local because it was just the Oklahoma City Whole Foods or Sprouts. And then again, we were super blessed and fortunate because the people of Oklahoma City supported us so well. Yeah. And they're like, you guys have the best selling numbers in the whole region. And you're in one store.
That's awesome.
Because we lived in those stores. So just like, it's like you're getting out there, you're meeting people. And again, it's just so humbling. I don't want to sound like a homer, but I am an Oklahoma City homer for sure. It is my home, but I would say even if it wasn't, if I took out my childhood and really just put my post-college adult life, it's just more meaningful to me, meeting awesome people like yourself and all the interactions. And again, we've gone to all the, LA, New York, Chicago. I mean, we've been to all those places. And I'm like, I wouldn't trade them for anything.
Yeah. Oklahoma City's my home now.
We got to pick to go anywhere in the country, and we picked Oklahoma City, man. We love it here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, me too. And I love hearing stuff like that. But I genuinely say it's the people of Oklahoma City are why we exist and why we're still here and why we have a chance to do more, because they've supported us. Have then, have now. And we did well. So then we leveraged that into a few stores in Tulsa. And then we leveraged that. Then we got in a few stores in Dallas. And then now you kind of have credibility. They're like, well, you guys are in, that. Oh, okay. Well, that's how we got into Crest, because we were doing good in Whole Foods. And then it was you just kind of play that game and you learn from there. But that was kind of how we started. Yeah. And then again, kind of the core focus early on, again, was helping people very broadly.
Sure.
And then kind of as we've gone down the path, we've had these different clarifying moments or chapters, which today makes it a lot clearer for me. So I really think of this a concentric circle that expands out. I think of it like a concentric heart, our, I always say starts in the heart type thing, but starts in our building. So a lot of our team members have been homeless or had drug addiction, or different life challenges that their past or present could disqualify them from a better present or future.
Sure.
And so, we have a good makeup there, which again, I've just really learned over the years, that's the number one people's life you can change, because I spend more time with them than family, friends, loved ones, whatever. So that is my family, that I'm my number one customer I'm trying to serve and support are the people on our team. Our building happens to now be across from the day shelter, which is the largest homeless shelter in Oklahoma City. Again, when we say love your neighbor as yourself, is legitimately living that out.
Right.
So how do we do that on a day-to-day interaction? I mean, I love hearing what you guys are saying about your mail or UPS, because again, that's what we get knocks on door. Hey, we can get some, it's awesome to me that we've built that relationship now, that people are coming and knocking and can be served, and again, water, bars, whatever. We do a big monthly, kind of what we call a neighborhood block party, or we partner with my friend at the Comeback Kids Society. So they'll bring kids from DHS Juvie. We'll cook burgers, breakfast, clothes, Kize bar, serve out. If you guys want to come sup some people up sometime, you guys are always welcome. That's fun. So we try to do that, and then again do different stuff with Juvie and at-risk youth and kind of health stuff around town. And then again, we did mission trips in Haiti for 6 years, which was, I would say, kind of our flagship thing through probably when we met till COVID. And then we couldn't go back anymore. And then they've had some political unrest, but it was, still in thoughts and prayers and support there. But now it's really been more focused on homeless, hunger, and kind of drug addicted and at-risk youth.
Well, yeah. And it's, you have those opportunities, to travel, and this is something that I always, really appreciate about my fiance is
Dude, congrats. Yeah, I heard you say that, and I was like, I I was like, is that live now? I didn't want to joke. I say that because I got engaged yesterday.
Oh my, what?
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
I did.
Dude,
I did. Yeah.
Holy
So
moly, dude.
When you were like, yeah, going through the process, I'm like, whoa. I'm like,
dude, congratulations.
oh, appreciate not to interject. Go
No,
back.
no,
but
that's
yeah,
great.
just
But what I was going to say was, she is, she's strong in her faith, and she's somebody who, this doesn't come from a side of her being judgmental at all. But one of her main thoughts has always been like, because they go on mission trips and they would do these different things, and she's been on some, and she really appreciated them. And one of the things that she says she's always reminded of is how much good can be done here as well, right? Like people, and maybe like there's some, I don't want to say this is a terrible word choice, but there is something to like, there's like the glamour almost of like the big, like the travel thing aspect of it. And she's like, yeah, you could, donate your time to the Homeless Alliance downtown, or, like you could serve food. And it's a super cool thing, because I think it's less of her. It's not her saying like people who go to these big trips are doing anything wrong. I think for her, she's very much tries to be in the mindset of like, yes, that's great, and I would love to do that, and that's an amazing thing, but what can I also do today? Right.
Yeah.
What is the thing I can do right now?
The trip to Haiti can serve as a guidelines or to inspire and
But I'm here,
right?
300 and
well, yeah. I was going to say she's very wise, and I'd love to share because I can align to that. So, we did that, and there's, I mean, I don't know how to say this. Like, you're on a high. You're on this unique thing in this new place, and you're experiencing things you never experienced, and you're seeing poverty at a level that you had no idea, and like you're all this, and then you come back, and a lot of people have this like reverse culture shock. Right. You like kind of get culture shock there, but then you come back here, and then a lot of people, I find it's like you get this guilt of like, I don't even like America now, and not good stuff either. But when we kept going back, like that's the real thing. And to me, it's really just a seed planted. Mm-hmm. The gift of wherever the people and ever the trip you go, it's really a seed to going back, but you are where you are for a purpose. Right. Go make a difference. Amen. You know what I mean? And so for us, we got to that point very clearly, because at first I was very sad that we couldn't go back to Haiti, because we built relationships with these people. Of course, we cared. But it's like, okay, well, like, but we're here. Mm-hmm. And so again, for me, that was like this growing development again of like, how can we steward our time, talent, treasures, gifts, services, whatever, and like do good from that. And so again, I'm like, we were faced with this big decision when we were moving we went from the Farmers Market District to the Amundsen Commercial Kitchen Building, which is on on Main Street in Virginia. So it's like west of downtown Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And we were outgrowing that space. So like, what do we do? Where do we go? Like, we're cutting holes in this guy's walls in the building. And like, we're like adding 18 to 25-year-old boys around this building. And it's like the Kize guy multiplication, which is like fun until it's like they're trying to run a business too. And, it's kind of like your fit camp thing. You're like, oh, you can hear us through all your walls. And anyway, so we're like, we were trying to move, and we had the chance of basically going to a nice part of North Oklahoma City, like South Edmond, or our other option was to move 3 blocks north across from the homeless shelter. And I remember that process really vividly because, I'm like, oh man, it'd be great to like be closer to Lifetime, and I can go to the gym at lunch. And, whatever part of town, and there's restaurants around, there's nothing down, and whatever. And it's like, when that was coming up, a lot of people, oh, you'd be afraid to go down there. And I felt like God wanted us down there. Yep. And like, we had an offer on the other place. And again, the door closed, and I thought it was closed on this other spot, and it opened. And so we jumped on it, and we've been there for 5 years now. And I'm like, I know wholeheartedly we've had more impact just being there, and even on the male people. I mean, there's 1,000 stories that I could tell that I won't, but more than we could do in a week. And everyone can do that. And that's the encouragement, again, of kind of the story. It's like everybody's got something they can give. You know, I always say give your tea, it warms people up. Give your time, energy, attention. All of that's free.
Right.
That's actually harder to give for people than money.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
go ahead.
Well, I think that goes back to like you talking about like you can do so much more than just offering a healthy protein bar. It's same for us, man. Is the realization that like at the end of the day, like man, we're selling vitamins. Like, but at the same time, man, there's so many opportunities, and I think like choosing to warehouse across the street from the homeless shelter is a great example of that, of being able to, man, like we've got, I'm sure, some extra inventory from time to time, or like, if they're hungry or just need some water, like we can hook them up. Like you wouldn't have that opportunity if you were in South Edmond or, but I think that's something that I have a hard time communicating sometimes to some younger people that are getting into business, and I think they get nervous about picking just one thing or siloing themselves into something that's very simple, that they want to do big things. And it's like, man, you can take something very, very, very simple and you'll have more opportunities to create something much bigger than I don't know, you start a shoelace company, it's like that. You could very, very much seem like you're very limited and you have a ceiling, but there's so much more that you could do with that like you probably wouldn't even realize right off the bat. Like I know for us, we're at the end of the day, we're selling vitamins. Like that's how we pay our rent and pay our employees, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, it's like, dude, like you said, we've got the opportunity to see a lot of these people in person, and it gives us the opportunity to almost be somewhat of a central hub for the Oklahoma City fitness community, man. Like we can, we aren't siloed into just one gym or even one aspect of the fitness community, man. We can work with everybody because we see people of all different facets of the fitness industry, man. And we can be part of events and help put on cool events and do different things to raise money for different things. And because we've got the floor to be and the attention to be able to get that going in the first place, create some really cool opportunities. Mm-hmm. But we could be really nervous about, all we've got is vitamins. So
it's funny. I mean, I love so much alignment that we've had over the years, and now and again, this is so fun. We should just go all night. I'm wired right now. So no time cap. Let's just keep ripping it until you're tired of me. No, I totally relate to that, because it's like we used to always say, and I'll still hear this time from time at an event. It's like, we're not passionate about peanut butter bars. We're passionate about people.
Yeah.
And it's like, people are like, oh, but it's like the same thing. It's like, there's a value, I used to call it the MVPs. It's like, there's a mission, vision, values, and like purpose, priorities. It's like, and they're not product dependent. Obviously, we can make bars, pencils, T-shirts, whatever. Right. It's like the bars values are just the vehicle. They're the vehicle.
Right.
That's right. They're the vehicle. They're the relational currency to be able to be impactful on that. And again, you said something about young people, and I get a lot of young people hit up to, and you're excited. And for me, it's like, I like seed analogies a lot. I love, again, parable, like as I've learned and continue to try to seek and learn the word and stuff, I'm like, I recognize nature. So like that really helps me, so I can learn that. So I speak from that. But the seed and the power of a seed, something so small, and then it goes in the dirt to grow. And how many of us in life look through our day-to-day and it looks like dirt?
Right.
And you can be discouraged by dirt. The reality is there is a seed with unlimited potential right under that. Mm-hmm. And you got to play your part every day to bring that to life. You got to water it. You got to do whatever. Again, there is an unknown potential in that seed that, again, can do whatever. And you look at anything that keeps any human alive and food, it comes from seed. Mm-hmm. It comes from something small, and someone worked that over and over and over again. And you think the faithfulness and the patient, persistent, hard work, day in and day out of farmers to get to harvest. And that applies in business or fitness or relationships. For me, it's like you got a vision of the fruitfulness or the harvest that you want. now back it into the day-to-day work, because you can't skip steps. Because trust me, if the farmer doesn't go out and water, you're not getting that crop.
Right.
If you're like, I feel like I'm going to chill for the next, you're not eating. It's not growing. So again, those principles of growth that again takes faith, it takes vision, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Right.
But it always starts with the small thing. Again, little things make big things. Seeds make orchards.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you have your part to play. You can't predict it all in all of that, but it's like you said, start small, be focused, control what you can control, do it, and be amazed. You guys have done so much stuff. I'm like, you can't sit there and say, everything went exactly according to plan.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
If anybody says that, they're a liar.
Right. And glad it didn't.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm going, sometimes, people are complimentary, and I'm like, you think that I planned half of this stuff? You don't know all the bad stuff either,
Right.
but I'm like, I could never hope, dream, or imagine of all the good stuff.
Right.
You know how pompous I would be if everything went according to plan? I'd be like, we're just killing it. But our podcast is called the Unsuccessful Entrepreneur Podcast for a reason.
Yeah, that's right.
It's funny you bring that up because there's, they remind me a lot. So Preston, he's our manager down in Norman and also is our head formulator for Define Nutrition. And, this is an analogy that because of him and having this is we've used a lot. So he was really into powerlifting for a while, and that was really one of his big goals. And so he used to have this like thing on us, and it's like said, win powerlifting worlds, whichever one whatever federation or whatever it was. And then it was like, okay, well, to do that, I have to win nationals. Okay, to win nationals, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And you got all the way down to the bottom, and the very bottom thing on the list was stretch. And it was like, well, if I want to do that, what can I do today? Well, the thing I can do today is stretch. I can be mobile. And it's like this, like you got to reel it back all the way down to, just like you were saying, it's the, what can we do today? What are the small things make big things? But it's like, he's like, if I don't stretch, I'm not winning worlds. Right. And so it's like, whether or not that goes or doesn't go to according to plan, it's like breaking it all the way down to this, like, what is something tangible that I can do right now? What is something tangible I can do right today, whether it comes to business or life or goals or whatever. And it's like, so it's something that whenever we have those kind of things, we have talks where like something like that comes up. An analogy that I know I've used and is like even frequently probably been brought up on the podcast is like, we can stretch, right? Like we stretch today because that is the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing, and on and on and on and on. And then eventually gets us to, somewhere that we dream of being.
Yeah. And it's like there's power in simplicity, right? There's power in focus. And sometimes it's like big goals or big things can feel daunting, but I'm like, stretching doesn't feel daunting.
Yeah, right.
It's controllable.
Right.
You can do that, right? And I think those principles can apply in anything,
Yeah,
which again,
amen.
like you say, you see that. And again, like to me, I think those are important things as leaders like you guys are, is recognizing those principles and teaching people those principles. Because again, what a gift that you can teach someone. Again, I'll use the seed analogy.
Right.
You can recognize that and sow that into someone. Who knows the fruit that will come to their life?
Right.
Of going, because you guys created that tangible recognition of the stretch concept,
Right.
that there's a shared story that you all know,
Right.
that now you can speak that into them. It's like, dude, that's changing stuff on people, right? And
I like the seed analogy a lot. I use this one comes from Andy Frisilla, who we used to work with, obviously at First Form. He used the bamboo analogy a lot, and I need to look up the specifics of it. I know I have before, so I could hopefully rattle off the actual specifics, but I don't remember. Anyway, the bamboo analogy is the fact that the way that bamboo grows is it will pop out of the ground and it stays like, I think just like a few inches for years. But to keep it alive and keep it moving on the right track, you have to continuously water it and make sure that it's taken care of, getting the proper sunlight. And again, you have to do this for years and years and years. And then over the course of just a few days, it'll grow like 9 feet.
Yeah.
And it can be tough to continue to water something and make sure it's getting sunlight when you're not seeing any growth at all. So not exactly the same, but it's I'm probably going to work it. I'm going to find a way to work this seed and bamboo analogy into it.
Yeah. Find your own for sure. Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day. Two things that come to mind. Again, stories that can relate principles that are transferable. Of one was the guy asked a question, how do you break through a wall? And he like drew a brick wall or something. And he was like, most people think you like, machine gun and you're like blasting everywhere. And he's like, the way to break through the wall is to pick one spot and to hit it over and over and over and over and over again. And then the wall breaks. And so again, it's a word that I feel a challenge from some friends and mentors. Again, he was using a light analogy too. If you put a magnifying glass on something and, shine, and then like creates fire.
Right.
And I don't remember the exact one, but it's like just unwavering focus
right.
and persistence into these little simple focused areas. So again, what are these core things in your business, in your life? Because again, you can get sucked, whatever the new thing is, the new wave. And it's like, we live in an age of distraction more than ever. So like you can be different in a good way by being unwaveringly focused. And you may not be popular and people may not, you get, oh, why aren't you eating that? Why aren't you drinking that? Why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? It's like, I got bigger goals.
Right.
And it's not my stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to sow, I got to water, I got to live, I got to do whatever because it goes to winning worlds or whatever that was. And so it's just like you reach that point in this stage of life where, especially again, we're older, you're not 19 or the responsibility load is more. And so again, you still have the same amount of time, so it's a time and energy management to try to have a whole and balanced life still, business, personal, family, all these things. And so it's like, that's the game I'm always playing of like reflecting back. I'm like, okay, how do I eliminate this, add this? How do I keep simplifying? How do I keep simple? And you feel like you have tons still, but
the simple things have way more aspects, way more facets to them than I think people realize. I think a really good one for me is Amazon started as just a bookstore, where I think a lot of people would want to look at like, oh, it'd be cool to be this big, this massive online store that sells everything. It's like I think from my understanding, Jeff Bezos even knew that he wanted to get to that point, but knew that that's next to impossible to take on right off the bat. And so they picked one specific thing, and that was books. And that's all they did. And they mastered that. And then they branched off into, I think, toys was the next thing. And then they, little by little, and everything's got multiple facets.
That's really good. And I'll tell something from a personal experience. So, I think all entrepreneurs can probably show, if you like to create, right? You start a business, you do whatever, and let's say you get some level of success, whatever it is. And we made this mistake, and then we did all these other things. We were doing catering, meal delivery. We had a juice shop.
Nice.
We had it's nice, except for now you're diluted and you're not breaking through the wall.
Yeah.
It's a premature thinking that you've broke through to wherever, and it's not. And so again, okay, we got to stop all that. And again, even on the branded side of going, man, I'd love to make supplements or nut butters or like all these other things in the brand and the business. But I'm like, we haven't broken through yet. And to me, we're going to get really, really, really good at making bars.
Right.
One thing.
And
best at one.
And loving and serving people.
Yeah.
Right? And until we do this to a meaningful level or whatever, we're not entertaining anything else because the shiny object distraction. And I remember, God bless his soul, one of my favorite mentors, I remember him. You sat across in moments like this and you heard the stories and then you went out and did exactly the opposite unknowingly. And you're like, and I look back in horror and I'm like, oh my gosh, that literally was what not to do. But he told the story of like, they thought they did all this and he said, all along we had the golden goose right here.
Right.
It took us 10 years of doing all this other ancillary distraction to come back and we have the golden goose. And again, talking to some other friends and mentors now, it's that same thing where I'm like, just get rid of the noise, get rid of the distractions. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. It's like, we had a good little catering thing, we had a good little meal thing, but they were tiny and wouldn't have the impact on people's lives that we wanted, compared to like, hey, but we're set up where we could make 50 million bars and touch 50 million lives and make generational change and, you know, breaking cycles and all this stuff. And it's like, the path to get there is right here.
What was the opportunity cost for
exactly
right
with taking on those other
we made
businesses.
that mistake, and I had to learn that in myself. Again, kind of go back to those initial passions. I like helping people. I like health and fitness. I like creating entrepreneurship. So guess what filter I ran through looking at the juice bar? Is it helping people? Is it health and fitness? Am I creating that? Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, catering? Oh, healthy food? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Oh, except for, and again, we were in a good wave with Kize, and then COVID happened.
Right.
You know, and then we took this next step where now we're in distributors, and they start stealing all your money and deducting you and all these other problems. And it was just like too much.
Well, we had, you know, and this is something that's pretty common just because like we're a bit of a unique supplement store for the metro, but kind of growing to kind of everywhere we're a bit, it can be a little bit unique. And we've seen more people kind of go to this model is the supplement store / smoothie shop. Right. And, you know, for us, like we've obviously considered it and thought about it and, you know, pro, con, and the thing that has always hung us up was when we're making a smoothie, we're no longer out on the floor helping a customer. And if similar to like what you said, like we love supplements, right? My passion in life is not supplements, right? My passion in life is I love talking to people. I love making relationships. I love helping people, just like, you know, similar things that you've talked about. And it's like everything that I do that is taking me away from that, when I have an opportunity to be doing that for the company, that feels like a negative opportunity cost, right? Like it feels like I'm losing opportunities. Because the question always was like, you know, what if you're 8 smoothies deep and you've got 3 people working in the store? Like, do you have 2 people doing smoothies and 1 person working? Anybody who's coming first, you know, you start to run into these things where you're kind of like, the more successful the smoothie side is for us personally, obviously people have different models, but it's like the more success we saw in the smoothie side would almost always be taking away from the supplement side to some extent. Like whether it was effort or energy or just like ability to talk to people, it got blenders going on, like all sorts of things. And it's like, this is really starting to feel like a distraction. And sure, we could potentially make more money or whatever, but it's like, but at the end of the day, our core of what we're trying to do is talk to people, help people, you know, guide them through a fitness journey or help be somebody who helps guide them through their fitness journey. And it's like, while sure, a smoothie or a protein shake, like, you know, can be beneficial to that if we can blend it up and make it for them. But like, there's also, like we've been talking about, we also lose some of like our focus. And it's like, we want to be the best supplement store there is, right? Like that is our goal. Our goal is to be the best supplement store that there is. And we fully believe our way of doing it is by being the most customer driven, the most like caring, the most attention to detail, all of those things. And it's like, well, man, anything that's kind of taking away from that, to me personally, just feels like noise, right? Just feels like fluff and things that like, I don't know if it would be where not to say we would never do it, but it's like, that to me feels like a distraction more than it feels like an addition.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I would call rare care and really good analysis, because you have to think through all that stuff. And again, there's power in being clear, you know. Rare care, again, clarity is a rarity for a lot of people. So the fact that you are clear on that is huge, and it obviously shows in what you guys have built, and more importantly, how you've built it, because you have that intentionality to be individually focused. When they walk in the store, I want to be able to serve. No distractions, no whatever. And again, it works.
Right.
And it's impactful for people. And again, people love you guys.
I'm trying to have somebody open up. Does the sound of a blender going on behind me make that more difficult for them to have a conversation?
But I think that's hard for a lot of people
Sure.
making decisions. So again, kudos to you guys for recognizing it and holding that off. Because again, to me, distraction is such an enemy to excellence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is in so many ways. I mean, we just live in the distractions are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think it serves as a good example too for how fine of a line it can be between something that helps your business and something that distracts from your business too. Where again, even just for selling vitamins, there's a million different aspects to it of do we need to bring in is the industry changing to where people are looking at they're not buying this anymore, they're buying a little bit more of that, or for one of us is working on creating more fridge space because people are buying more drinks. Is that something that is distracting from our business or helping our business? It can, some of that stuff can flirt the line a little bit. Where a smoothie shop is I think the best way to think about it is that starts to kind of be on the side of that is a whole other business that we would have to run.
I was going to say, if I could tie into that, it's a completely different business and execution. And the same thing, if you remember, I know it's just we're making bars, we're doing that. I'm running it through our values kind of filter. And now we're trying to run a smoothie shop. Two different businesses, two different executions, different capital needs, different marketing, different things, and no one has the experience, and it's maybe if you had enough money and time that you could go completely hire somebody else that's literally done that and they could go do it. Even then, it always costs more, takes longer.
Right.
You guys know.
To do it right, you have to be very meticulous.
Right. And it's that's not your jam. It's not your sweet spot.
We could either be a really good supplement store or a decent supplement store and a decent smoothie shop.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's been one thing that's put here. This is a common story for me, is kind of being forced into a certain mindset to just survive in our first few years has hurt me in some ways, but helped me in other ways. I think for a big thing for us, once we finally started gaining traction with the stores and building a customer base and actually watching growth, is any other opportunities. I'm so nervous about adding those in. Is this going to take away from what we have going right now? And again, so it in a way it kind of serves me I get extra skeptical about other opportunities.
I think it's good. I mean, you could pick 1,000 businesses and they do one thing really, really, really well. I mean, again, this is a bad analogy, but it makes me think of Chick-fil-A or something. I'm sure they do more things now, but it's oh, you've been around for 60 years making the same chicken deliciously, or whatever. And it's there's tons of stuff like that. And
They're not dropping burgers.
Yeah, I
just be good at this.
Let me frame it this way. More people fail or struggle or delay breakthrough by being diversified or thinking that, which is actually distraction, versus people that stay ruthlessly focused on wherever they stepped into. Again, some industries do change and move, and you got to watch that. But again, by and large, that principle of being focused and again, really understanding what are you really good in doing that. I think that's the thing I struggle with, because again, it's personally, I like the interaction. So again, all those things we did, what did that do? It gave direct customer interaction, which we don't get really in our space. And so I think, again, personally, but it took me years to learn that.
Right.
I'm oh, I like this more than I like this, except for that helps us suffer here. And so now it's just having to unlearn, relearn, and then again, try to apply being better going forward. But I would always encourage people, again, be ruthlessly focused where you can. And again, you do see people that can break through and move, but it's again, I'll use the seed analogy or the bamboo. Again, it's okay, you start with bamboo. I'm good with this 2-inch tall bamboo. And then you go start planting something else.
Or, hey, this isn't growing the way that we think.
Yeah, and it's okay, cool. But if you would have stayed focused for one more year, whatever that was, you have a 9-foot bamboo, and now you know how to repeat growing bamboo.
Right.
So in your guys' case, it's oh, you figured out what it takes to make one store well.
Yep.
So you do another, you do another, and you do another. And again, going, well, what if that was just making a smoothie shop?
Right.
You know, and it's like, maybe you're at that one store.
Right.
And again, maybe that's what you want or not, but I don't think it is from listening to you guys. So I think you made the right choice on that.
Yeah. But right. I mean, it's the, and not to just like hate on having a smoothie shop, obviously, but it's like, it's those things like Kevin talked about. It's like in what you talked about, just being ruthlessly focused on like, hey guys, like there's a lot of meat left on this bone of us still being better, right? Like there's a lot of things that we can do.
Exactly.
And it's like, if I'm if I'm worried about what I'm going to get on my next plate of food before I'm even finished for this one, like I'm starting to I've lost my focus. There's still so much, like, I think, we're like, obviously I love what we're doing. I still think like, I know you feel this way and I feel this way, and I'm sure most people do, but it's like there's still a lot more cool things we could be doing. A lot more there's a lot of better things that we could be doing. We could be doing things, expanding certain aspects, growing within the company in ways that don't distract from the goal, right? In ways that don't deviate the path to something that wasn't what we're trying to do. If that's expanding fridge space, like, yeah, that makes sense, but it's like, you start adding a whole nother business, you're like, okay, I don't know about all this. Like this is where we're going to struggle.
I think that's a good question to ask you. Is this another business, or does this contribute to our current business?
Right.
And I got asked that a lot when we started doing that, and it's like, you could probably got to hear something 10 times. Oh yeah, actually we need to get out of this now.
Right.
I feel like Lifetime is a good example of, like, it can be done. You can do multiple things at once, but when you really think about Lifetime, they got like 30 different businesses within one facility, and the attention to detail on each of those is probably as much as any other business goes.
Right.
Like, I know for you, like you guys are not just doing, like, when you really think about it, like, yeah, you're making healthy bars, but you're doing, I think I love that you explain it as you're creating a brand and manufacturing. Like, that's something that we're not doing. Like, we're not manufacturing. We're working with manufacturing, and that's enough detail for us. Like, that's a full-time job these days, and we're not even the ones making this stuff. Like, and so that's for us is, we've got the stores and we have the brand, and obviously they can be cohesive, but those are still two very different companies. Like, they both have to be run. They both take as much attention as two different companies, and that in itself is almost too much. So.
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, I got challenged a lot, and I've thought about that a lot. It's like, what are you? Are you a manufacturer or are you a brand? You know what I mean? I mean, I wrestled with that question for years, and I got that. And, it's like, kind of where I arrived at is like, hey, we have to learn. I mean, we have to learn the principles of manufacturing regardless. Like, there's no ego on our line. Like, if it's our brand or something else, to me, it serves the greater mission and vision of what we're trying to do, which is change lives for the better. And again, kind of through food service and charity is that vehicle. But we got to that point also where it's like, well, it's not a forever thing, right? Because if we do get the breakthrough with the brand and our line is more filled, which is supporting the business in a way, then it's like, well, we obviously have the chance where we could adjust that. Again, we like doing both. It's a blended balance and it changes. But again,
they complement each other.
They're complementary more than the catering was.
Yeah, kind of like what having Triad and having Define. Like, they're two different things, but they coexist in the same.
Because for us, the way I look at it too, it's like our brand can be better. Here's one of the hard things about the manufacturing. Let's say you make something once every 3 months. Most people get better with repetition, doing stuff in a regular frequency. Oh yeah, cool. We only make this. I mean, we've learned this. Oh, you're only making for other people sometimes. Oh, you're only making this item once every 6 months. Okay, well, we forgot the first time. It was winter this time, which our temperature and humidity in our building is this. And now it's summer and our temperature and humidity is this. Oh, and the raw materials which you get from the ingredients from the ground is from different climates and different growing seasons. And why did these look like two different products when nothing was changed from the recipe, the processing, whatever? And it's complex, right?
My gosh, think about that.
It's like, I mean, I actually got like peace. We were touring this facility in Chicago a few weeks ago, giant company. I mean, it was awesome. Just trying to learn. And they were making cookies, and they had this spec sheet of the customer they were making for a big famous brand, and it like showed like what was acceptable and not, and all this detail. But it made me feel so good because I was this is sad, but I was looking at it and they were like the pictures of what was acceptable, and it looked like 3 different cookies.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like, we get that, and I get that, and again, having Grace being on the other side of it,
Right.
you know, it's like, yeah, I get it, because it's so complex to try to bring it to life. I mean, I couldn't even imagine at a global scale, you're pulling ingredients from all over the world and they're making whatever. And I'm like, it's hard enough for us to make a 4-ingredient bar when we buy from one supplier and one, you know, and
I think it's funny because like there's something you kind of talked on earlier, but yeah, like I think in your space, I think people forget it's food, right? Like, you know, go home tomorrow and make pan-seared chicken and then do it the next day and tell me if they look identical or not. You know, like there's going to be differences, right? Like your asparagus you had on the side might be, you know, it's all those things. It's like, how hard is it to actually replicate something, even with the same exact ingredients, like over and over and over again?
And then take that pan-seared chicken on day 1 versus day 10 versus 3 months later. And they're going, why is it not the same?
Yeah. Why does this?
We wanted this natural, healthy thing, but you know, again, that's kind of the cultural conditioning of like, you think everything needs to be exactly the same, and it's not.
Right.
And it's funny because we got that a lot early on, and we would just start going, have you ever bought a jar of natural peanut butter?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, the oil rises to the top, and then there's different things. And it was funny because like some people would be like, yeah, I like the little variants. It reminds me that it's natural, and I really like that. But that doesn't go for everybody.
Yeah.
And again, I hate not being able to have a conversation
Right.
with everybody that has it. Like for me, it's like, if everyone could come to our building and we had a retail shop where we could make to the masses, like that's best, because again, you can have that education. You guys know,
because what a way to put it though, like the way you just put it is like of it being like, oh, I kind of like the variances. It reminds me that it's like natural. And
I feel like you just want to kiss that person.
Yeah, like that's a great way to put it.
Get it?
Yeah,
thank you. I love you.
No, right. But no, you're right, and I think we have a similar thing kind of to what you were talking about earlier too. Is like being on the retail side with Triad, and then being on like the wholesale and brand side for Define. It's like there's so much cross education, obviously, you know, like you learn so much about like trying to, by having a retail store. And I always say this, the majority, not always, but like the majority of some of our favorite brands to work with also have retail locations. And what's so great about that is because they just understand. They understand the needs of us. They understand like how something is moved, how it can be better within a store, and how because they also have to deal with it. You know, they know what it's like firsthand to be in stores and be doing this. And so it is it's a cool thing for you guys too, I think, from like a manufacturing side as well as like having your own brand. It's kind of like a similar analogy where it's like you guys get to see and understand the like needs and desires, and it's like,
that's awesome that you said that. We're a great resource as a manufacturing partner to a brand because we get both sides.
Right.
And it's funny, early on people would be like, oh, people don't want to work. I'm like, there's no competition here.
Right.
Which has been really nice because our partners that we've worked with, most of them have been great, but it's like our ability to think through all those brands, like dealing with the wholesaler, distributor, how is it going to set up in store, knowing the reality, like you said, on some branches going, 3 months or less consumed, awesome. But after that, and in the summer, and if the temp's not controlled, who knows, right? And those are real realities, and we've tried to talk people and educate them. And some people, it's like, again, we just want to sell the units, and it's like,
we know what it's like to sell these, so we're going to manufacture them to put you in the best possible spots.
Exactly.
I do like hearing the details on the manufacturing side of things because I've thought about this. I've gone down the rabbit hole just through thought sometimes, and every once in a while we get people on the team that, it especially happens whenever we get mistakes from the manufacturer of, hey, this showed up, it was supposed to be in a glossy tub and it's a matte tub, or hey, the chocolate flavoring is just not quite as much. And it's like, it seems like simple mistakes, but when you really think about it, it's like, man, the amount of like steps it had to go through just to add the cocoa into this chocolate protein powder is probably unfathomable. So we have, whenever we deal with these mistakes, a lot of times we'll have team members of, man, that'd be really cool to get into manufacturing. I think, we would just do it the right way. And my first thought is always, I think it's a whole lot harder than you think it is. I think there's a lot more details to this than you believe. I think there's even more details than I can even imagine right now. And you talking about ordering ingredients in different seasons, that's one thing I never thought about.
Yeah, for real. Like, what?
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Oh, I could tell you horror stories on horror stories of hard lessons learned of stuff that you could never even imagine. And yeah, I mean, for me, I always have grace for people going, anytime I find myself going, oh, we could do that a lot better. It's like, okay, just remember, like, you're only seeing it on the surface.
Right.
And like, things always are harder, cost more, take longer, etc. But, I mean, I'm trying to think of some stories. I mean, I told this story recently, but this, I think, is a funny story. Who knows if it's applicable, but we used to make them by hand. In one of our first years, we were going to Haiti. It used to say, changing lives on the packaging on the front. Okay. You got to learn how printers and filmmakers and all these stuff, and we go through it. Anyways, changing lives for better, trying to say the mission. Okay. We were in Central Market, which is a chain in the DFW area, and we were running a sale at the time that had pictures about the people from Haiti that they were, with their support, helping themselves clean, simple, healthy, protein, Kize. You're also helping these in need in Haiti. So trying to make the connection. We're running this big register. So it was like a big deal for us. It was our first time doing something. Like, we're on the plane going to Haiti to serve the people. We get a call that the packaging of the items in the store said hanging lives for the better. And somehow, don't know how, the C had fallen off in like the printing process and wasn't known, and it said hanging lives, and we have a picture of this, and I was about to die on this plane that we're about to go. And this was literally before we're like, no phone for a week, like detach. And it was like, how does that happen? And then again, you name 1,000 other complaints and problems of stuff that happen, and you're like, very painful moment, very expensive. And then again, that's how you do, like, that's how you learn though. For me, I'm like, guys, we got to convert the pain into wisdom.
Right.
We got to convert it.
That's a tough one to convert.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, like there was no control there. But again, I'm like, what's a process? What's a procedure?
Right.
Again, how do we have rare care and think about this in a bigger way to like try to prevent this? Like, we don't expect perfection. Right. But we got to keep learning and doing that. I mean, there's little things like that, I mean, the mistakes add up in the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars fast. And I'm like, man, we could have, I'm like, we've lost so much money and so many people. It would be pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that you got to have that mindset anytime you hit that. And you start to, at least for myself, I know I've gotten a little bit more used to reminding myself just to expect this of things are going to go wrong. And when we hit those things, we have to figure out how to fix the current problem and figure out a way to avoid it in the future. And if we can do those things, I'm cool as a cucumber. Can't say that word, but I'm lying. I'm usually a nervous wreck. Right. But yeah, no, those are the things that keep me sane. Is like if we can figure out a way to get past this situation and figure out a way to at least try and avoid it in the future, that'll keep me sane.
What can we do? What can we control?
Yeah, you can control what you can control. It's like we're at this stage right now. So where we're at right now, going through, it's like, okay, we've, we just had to survive post-COVID, and thank God we did, and trying to re-stimulate the brand kind of back out there. And so we've got some Sam's Club and Costco and like Oklahoma, but we're up for some like pretty big expansion opportunities, which that would be kind of that like breakthrough moment. And we've just kind of arrived at like, okay, like all the little processes and things we've done were basically like incremental tweaks along the journey. But now I'm taking a step back. And I'm like, we got to start over how we think about this, because we're not set up to support a 10x growth right now if we got some of these things. And so it's a hard moment to get the team going, well, you're just used to doing it this, and you're in your rhythm and you're comfortable. And I'm kind of like trying to, I'm like, guys, like, we're probably about to change everything in like the process for the greater good of everyone, but it's not without that. But it's like, I mean, we're to the point where it's like the temperature, the humidity at every single step in the process. I mean, we were making 84,000 bars once, and like your filter breaks and your AC and the temp is higher, and now your chocolate's melting, and this is
gosh.
And it's like all the stuff. And it's like, I mean, we deal with stuff like that all the time. And it's like, it's a miracle that, you know, you think I'm like, it's a miracle we have any customers, you know, it's like your mind, you know, sad. And, but yeah, I mean, just the encouragement of like you said, it's like expecting, and it's like something about Mondays too. It's like, we expect spiritual warfare every Monday. It's like, you have a great weekend. You come in, and today was just like, but I was like, you know, we're at least learning this because we kind of expect it now. I was like, man, I had a great son, you know, got engaged, feel pretty good. And it's like, you walk in the door and you're like, oh, okay.
You deacclimate from the stress very quickly. I've learned, like, anytime I've taken little trips or gotten to take time off and just been able to get away, when I come back, I've learned that I'm not as prepared to handle stressful situations as I was when I left. When I, you know, before I left, I was, you know, doing it day after day, week after week kind of deal. So I'm acclimated. I'm used to the stress. I'm used to the problems. I'm used to the, just the, you know, the negative things coming my way. So, and I'm dealing with them. I'm used to it. But then I get a few days off and I forget. I get out of that rhythm, and then I think that's what I would assume is why it's spiritual warfare on Mondays. It's no harder than Friday. You're just a little bit more used to it on Friday than Monday.
Yeah, very well could be.
That's my prediction. That's my guess.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We were kind of talking about this, and just something I was going to bring up, but I'm always reminded of this. We're just back to being in just like laser focused on what you're doing and doing it as best as you can. Kevin and I used to work out at a gym, and this was back in Missouri, where we're from. But it was this gym, and it was a good little gym. And they went from like just being a gym to then having like a smoothie bar / like food prep. Then they added like cryotherapy, and then they added like a whole recovery area, and like the whole time, like a quarter of the machines were broken. And you're like, you keep adding new businesses to this, thinking that that's what's missing.
The gym itself was awesome.
Right. And it's like, the gym's great. Like, sure, you could have knocked down a wall or something and opened it up, but who even knows? Like, but it was great. But it was like, but like, half the dumbbells, like, you know, the rubber's like peeling off, and it's like I get it, and I understand like wanting to add all these new dynamics and things because that's what you think is going to really spruce this place up. But it's like, man, this place just needs like a little repairs and like maybe some new light bulbs, and it's like it'd be great.
The non-sexy ways to improve the business.
Exactly, but it's like, I think people forget it's why people come though. People don't come to your gym for the smoothie bar. People come to the gym for the weights and to work out and to do this, and then the rest of it is awesome, you know. And it's like, you see places like, you know, Lifetime do it well, but then you also like look at Lifetime and you realize that like each one of those things is almost its own separate entity with its own hierarchy that is only focused on that, you know what I mean? As opposed to like one person trying to, like, you know, whoever's managing the gym, running the smoothie bar and the cryotherapy and and all of this. And it's like, this is next to impossible. Like, you gotta like refocus and remember like, you know, it's funny because it's something that I feel like we kind of talk about a decent amount, is like, as important as innovation is, we also know our playbook of like what we want to do and how we can be successful with doing it. And innovation's great, but like, Like, but we also know what makes triad, and like if we innovate to a point where that playbook's not even the thing anymore, and it's like, well, now we're losing focus, we're losing sight of like what we are and who we are, right? And so it's always interesting because we've used that gym as an analogy a number of times too, where it's just like if you guys just and that gym unfortunately ended up closing, but it was like, if we feel like, I don't know all the details, but it's like, I feel like if that money could have just gone towards making the gym a gym again, like you'd have had at least a better chance.
Yeah, I mean, those are real lessons too that are good. Like, unfortunately, people do close, and you can look back and take that. But again, going back to focus, distraction, and again, it can look like innovation and marketing and new, and it's like, is it? And again, only you can decide that,
right?
And it's good that you're. I mean, we get that too. I mean, again, I'd have 55 different flavors.
Yeah,
because I like the R&D process.
Yeah,
I like creating something from idea to life. But real breakthrough is going to be a handful of items breaking through in a few channels. And so again, we're hyper focused. Like for us right now, it's like we're going to break through in club.
Yeah.
Like that's our best way to help as most people. You go, Sam's or Costco. Why? Because of the playbook. Because you can demo in those stores and the price is cheaper. You can see the most people for the least price to purchase for the most touch points that they could potentially try before they buy it.
What's better than that for you?
And that's our breakthrough spot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good example of even just new flavors of what you already do can distract from the current flavors. It can, you have to manage the inventory for more flavors now. You have to, I mean, that's more cost going into that could be taking away from the current flavors.
And that's our
marketing.
That's our challenge, because we're like, okay, well, our top flavors are literally recipes I made by hand with no clue.
Yeah.
Like no clue. Like didn't know supply, didn't know what you didn't know to even didn't think about knowing, right?
You're buying stuff at Walmart.
So exactly.
Right.
So now we have this different level of expertise and experience, and I find us in this spot of going, well, these are our best flavors, our top sellers, but I would make new products like this.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't make it like that because, I mean, I'll give you a good example. Our best flavors are peanut butter chocolate chip and cookie dough. Okay. Well, the egg protein, in my theory, but pretty validated, it's a nightmare, and it causes all of the natural things have inconsistencies, right? You talk to some of these, I won't say their names, but I've talked to food scientists and R&D people at big multinational food companies, and they'll basically say any natural food you can't control. But the most processed items you can control,
right?
Which is why there's heavy processing, right? Because people want control and consistency. Yeah.
Every Oreo I've ever eaten looks the same.
They're pretty consistent. They're pretty consistent.
Tell you what.
Right? And so it's this weird balance of like again, like we want to send natural, healthy, that's like how I eat. That's what we believe in. But you also want to make a consistent product as good as you can.
Right.
So there's this like traders or manufacturers dilemma over our end. So now how I think about it is like, what's the supply chain? Where is it coming from in the world or the country? What's the climate like? Here's another example. How many people do it? Because the supplier will always have an issue. So if you only have, I mean, we ran this, we made some neat item for another company. I mean, it was cool. And we found this unique gluten-free, soy-free Oreo like cookie piece.
Yeah, right.
And put it in their thing. Except for their line went down and we couldn't get it for 6 months. And we just lost tons of money and time and energy and whatever on that. But I come back to going, okay, well, how does it work on our equipment? And how does it work on this piece of equipment? And again, it's just the little nuances that you're trying to get on the path to mastery that you just have to get reps and time over a long period of time. And so now I'm at this point where it's like, that's why I go back and I'm like, I wish we could sell in the fridge everywhere.
Yeah.
Takes variables away.
Right.
Well, guess what? Most people want to buy on the shelf.
Right.
And the shelf space is different. You're going against better complex, and I won't get into that. But from like making the best product possible and doing that, controlling it while making it natural food and knowing all the variances that you're going to get, Like that's just my thing because we can control that better, right? We make it ourselves, we store it, if we distribute it and keep temperature. Now we've taken temperature and shelf life basically out of the equation to some degree. And so, but it's a struggle. So I'm on this theory of like, well, for us, which would be more, they're not baked, they're not coated with stuff. You don't want giant percentage of what I would say the animal proteins because they're more likely to grab moisture. And it's that moisture migration that causes the drying or the hardening or whatever. Anyway, it just gets really complex. So I'm in this thing, I'm like, well, these are our best. This is what we know. But I think this, but it hasn't been validated.
Right.
And we've sold for 10 years, millions of these. And it's probably our best potential. But it's also like, is it just the flavors that people just love those? Those are the most popular selling flavors. And again, if we change the recipe, with the little tweak or dress, but then you always get complaints one way. So anyway, there's all sorts of stuff. So it's like just thinking through that.
You start looking at like some of the marketing stuff. I was watching this video not too long ago where it was like they had changed the color. They didn't change the recipe at all, but they changed the color of the cap on the bottle of Diet Coke. And they got something like 45,000 complaints within like 2 months.
Jeez.
Because they were like, it's different, it tastes different. And they're like, no, it's literally the same. We just changed the color of the cap. And it's like,
jeez.
And, and I'm always reminded of this too, because it's always so impressed with Kize and what you guys do. There are certain things about your specific industry that I do not envy. Most of it being like, people don't give food a second chance very often. So we had some friends who had kind of broken into your guys' space of making stuff, and they had made a food item. And when they had made it in small batches, like through samples and like their first like little bit that had come out, they were awesome, super good, very popular. People really, really liked them. The flavor was awesome. I don't know, you'd probably know better than any of us, but it was like when they then scaled, something happened in the flavor system.
Completely different.
And when the flavor system started to fail, it started like literally burning your throat when you'd eat them. And it was like people went from buying boxes of this to they had one bite that like, oh, that tasted like they could burn my throat almost like not actually, but it just like had a burning sensation almost. And like that like burned my, and they're like, never again.
Same ratios. The shelf life was tested in the beginning.
Yeah. And they were like, never would give them a second chance. And it's like, that is like, and that's again, where it's like, I'm always impressed by, like the things that you guys have done because like, that's tough. That's a tough industry.
I mean, small example, and that's part of scaling. Why I tell people, and we'll get this too when people want projects. I'm like, well, I got to charge you for an R&D fee, and they don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it right, you're responsible for everything on the back end, if we went forward. But think about this. I gave the kitchen mixer analogy, okay? Let's say they're doing something like that. So we'll call it a dough. They're doing a dough. I'll use our ingredients. You put peanut butter, you put honey, you put protein, put oats. That's it. You mix it. You put it out by hand, you flatten it, put a bar, eat it. You get it to your friends, family. Wow, I love this. This is great, whatever. Okay, let's scale this up. I gave the same thing to a buyer. We got an order. Let's scale it up. Okay. Well, we can't put it in that mixer anymore because it's not big enough.
Right.
So we got to get a different mixer. And we got to do a certain amount to pay for this warehouse space right now. Well, guess what? These bigger mixers, bigger metal, more force, more heat. Well, now your temperature's different.
Yeah.
And now the force is different.
Right.
And the texture. And instead of you going and dropping them off to your friends and family, now you're shipping it. And maybe you tested that for 3 months in the winter, but now you're doing that and that. Oh gosh. I just broke it. I'm sorry. Take that times 1,000 other variables that you can only get with time and pain and testing and maybe a wide work of network. But if you're typically doing it on your own and you're going from the kitchen to real life scaling, or it's completely different. Yeah. I was like, you got to know every variable tested. And again, same thing I would tell people. I don't know what the next year's crop of peanuts is going to be.
Yeah.
It could be a little drier, could be a little more moist. Again, I don't know the weather's going to be out. I mean, we're looking at significant investments in our operation of going, well, in certain times of year, dude, we're hit. It's so humid and hot outside. Well, now we're past. I mean, it just changes stuff.
Yeah.
You can't test it all to an economical way to make it sustainable.
It makes sense. Like the thing you're saying is, if I hand deliver this in my air conditioned car and like it lets you have it, like, this might be awesome. But I had a buddy who used to load trucks at UPS, and it was like, these trucks are 110 degrees.
So we
and
just
the boxes are going to sit in there.
We're literally going through that now. It's like we've struggled with that for years. Do we do these things? Do we not? It's like, well, we didn't. And it's like, okay, well, we shipped it out and we got like 4 complaints over 100 something. And it's like, again, I was going, well, the ones you don't get are the ones you're really concerned about. So I'm always thankful for that. But it's like the same thing. I'm like, those UPS trucks are like 140 degrees.
Yeah.
What human, food, anything can hold up in 140 degrees? Well, again, okay, so you spend, it's literally like $10 extra to try to ship with a cold pack. Well, guess what? They don't stay cold if you're shipping to California.
Yeah.
So then sometimes we get people come, well, it's not cold and it's melty. Well, I can't send you a $25 box of protein bars or energy bars, whatever you want to call it, with $30 of cold pack or like something that's for a medical device. So if you want to pay $70, so it's just those challenges of like, again, and we have rare care for that. And thankfully, again, we're like, well, we don't care. We're going to pay this and we don't want to charge whatever. So we'll just eat it for the summertime, which again is a non-ideal for a small business just trying to make it and do good in the world. But it's like, like you're at these decision points as an entrepreneur of like, what do we do?
I think it's a testament to how much effort and how much time it takes to just keep things at status quo. Where it's fun to, maybe look at some new flavors or maybe, look at some new marketing for, everything existing or, see out start to work on building new accounts and like that's all the fun stuff you get to do after all of the things that you have to do to keep the status quo. And obviously for you guys, a lot of that is the variables in the product itself. And it's like you add a whole nother flavor. That's a whole nother set of variables for all the ingredients that go into that. So for and for us as well, the more products that we come out with, like there's more possible things that can go wrong. A great example of that recently is our the company that makes our labels, all our defined labels are matte labels. It's a glossy tub with a matte label on it, and that's our look. Well, we had 2 pallets worth of a product show up in glossy labels. So now going back to why did this go wrong in the first place? Let's figure that out. That'll help us with a couple of things here, and that'll help us figure out how do we fix this and how do we avoid this happening in the future as well. But the amount of effort it took to just dive into that, find solutions, and actually be able to carry out the solutions. The solution legitimately is to open the box up, pull them all out, pull the label off of them and ourselves by hand and put the new matte label back on. Now we could put the glossy labels out there. They're up to standard. They've got all the same information, but we were able to work out with our label company since it was a mistake on their end. Luckily not on our end. A lot of times it's on our end, but, we didn't want to put something out there that was inconsistent from what our usual labels are. It didn't look like it had the same quality. It just didn't have quite the same feel. And we could have sent them out and it would have been fine. Like we would have met FDA standards. Everything, to the customer, it's got all the right information. It's got the right, all the right artwork and everything, but it just didn't have the same feel. And it's like, man, we might end up losing some customers. Like maybe that's, not specifically the reason that they don't buy it, but they were on the fence about it, but man, it just looks really nice. It feels really nice. That's why they buy this defined product. But now we want to keep that standard. So we've got to spend all this time and effort figuring out why this happened, working a deal out with the label company to get new labels sent to us and then hand doing them ourselves. I say ourselves, it's Ian that does our wholesale that's doing most of it right now. I told him if he needs,
Ian.
Yeah, shout out Ian, dude. That is not easy. It's 1,000 tubs. So if you buy Define Pre-Plus sour cherry candy within the next 6 months, just know that Ian hand took care of those.
Labeled it.
Hand labeled those those
Rare
tubs
care.
for you. Yeah,
That's right.
But yeah, it's putting that extra effort in, and it's again like if you're not here, if you didn't hear me tell that story, you'd have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just that's just how Define Pre Plus sour cherry candy always is, and it's like it took just a ton of effort just to keep the status quo.
Right.
So
I'm racking my brain, like thinking of all of these things, and it's like, yeah, like you could hand deliver Kize bars here straight to us, and if we didn't air condition this warehouse.
I was looking at that on the shelf. I was like, you have a fridge. Those should be in the fridge.
Yeah,
I literally had that thought when I walked in.
Right, but
I was like, I didn't know that. Did our guys know that? We should be telling that. It would be better if,
right, but for real though. But it's
communication.
Like, and if we didn't, if it was 92 degrees in here, even worse, it would be one of those things where it's like that's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like,
but it becomes your fault.
Right, exactly. It like with something like that, it does. It always comes back to you where it's like that's here locally. Like you're sitting here on a podcast and be like, that should be in the fridge. We're like, dang, that's right. They should be. And it's like, let alone you sending it off to somewhere else that like you're never going to see. It's there's so many variables.
We'll put those in the fridge before you leave.
That's just the start of. I mean, you think, you shouldn't have stories gonna be. I'm like, they're not even on the shelf half the time.
Right.
And it's like, I get why. I mean, it's pretty big company dominated, the reality, because it gets so expensive. Like things you assume should be people's job. Like you ship a product to the store, distributor, it should get on the shelf, and it doesn't. So it's like now you have to pay for people to go into the stores to make sure your product's on the shelf. And it's like there's you can't afford it, you can't manage it, or you can't make it economical. Where it's like, well, now I see why healthy food and things keep going up and up, because it's like everyone's got to, and now you got to have a certification for everything to do something.
Right.
It's like, anyways, it's kind of wild.
That's crazy.
It was you said it was Whole Foods was the first store that you went into? Is that right?
Like big retailer, yeah.
Big retail.
We
Okay.
started with like little mom and pop, like coffee shops and juice shops and yoga studios and fitness gyms, and just awesome local entrepreneurs and stuff around here, and doing the farmers markets and doing the weekend stuff. And then we there was some deal for meeting and we got turned down, and then I went back. Like I just kind of stayed persistent, and they called him like a local forager for Whole Foods, and she basically said, if you change your packaging to something that could look better in our store and you make it more like a bar and not like in this bag, if you can get it to this price point, I'll give you a chance.
That's cool. They actually gave you feedback though.
Yeah, well, she's like, well, I've been hearing about you gaining some traction, so like, okay, there's a little more validity. And then it was basically like, if you can take it out of this plastic bag and do it. So that's when we basically went into the bar at that point.
I think that's when we picked them up. You were really excited about the new packaging. I remember visiting the facility when our first order I picked up by hand, and you kind of touring me around, and you were really excited about the packaging. And I didn't appreciate it because I didn't realize it was in those big clear bags before.
Yeah. I mean, I was just love the bags.
Yeah, it is really nice packaging.
It was
man.
about three in the old plastic bag, but yeah, I mean we've had so many packaging iterations.
Right.
It's crazy, but you learn. And again, that's what you said, the cap thing. I'm like, I get it though, because you're looking at everything of going, how can I stand out more on a shelf?
Right.
How can I connect with the consumer? How do they feel, see, relate to who we are, what we stand about? And again, that's always been our struggle. Like you got like 3 to 5 inches.
Right.
We're not there to tell our mission or story. So again, it's like, our product values is clean and simple, is really what we go with. And again, we want to share the mission stuff, which was always a struggle, because it's like, well, we don't really want to say it because we're really not trying to do it to be like, look at us. Right. But then we just kind of kept getting that feedback, especially when we came back from Haiti in those first years. It's like people wanted to know, and they're like, it was good. So it's like, really where I arrived at is like, it's authentically who we are.
Right.
And we owe it to be authentic. And so if we want to be generous and we want to help people, and that's part of our brand and our business, we have to find the best way to do that without being like, look at us, look at what we do. And I think we've done a good job, because to your point, it's like a lot of people, especially locally, like they don't know we're from Oklahoma. They don't know a lot of this stuff that we do. And part of that is because, again, we have a small footprint that you can't say it all on there, because we still want it to be simple. So again, it's like we go with like very simple color, and we've been that way for 10 plus years. Well, I appreciate it. So
No, they do. Speaking of the facility, I need to come. I live right by where you guys are at now. So
really?
Yeah, we live at Maine and Sheridan. So
dude, yeah, you're close.
Yeah,
come on down.
Close. Heck yeah, man.
Dress up like you're homeless and knock on the door. You'll get some free Kize bars.
I mean, yeah, for sure. but you can dress like that and come in the other door.
Well, guys, we're over 2 hours. It's it goes fast, doesn't it?
I'm glad you took the time limit away, man, because that was a really fun conversation, man.
That's great.
And like almost all the podcasts, man, I really hope we press the record buttons and everything, right? Because I hope other people get to listen to that too.
Hey, if not, I enjoyed it either way.
Exactly,
right.
exactly. I haven't messed up yet, so.
Well, dude, to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I think, it's something that we've always thought about you, and we've always thought about Kize, but kind of getting to sit down and talk with you more, man. It's super cool getting to hear you speak about things and kind of like, I'm reminded because it's something that for whatever reason has like come to my mind a lot, and I've been passing this to people when I've talked to people and tried to see how they're doing, and people have been like more open with me. Is like I've been telling people a lot to like trust your intentions, right? Like trust what you're trying to do, trust like the intentions that you have, and I think for me, it's really cool. Like I even complimented you guys on earlier, is like, as you've grown, I feel like you've grown really eloquently. I think you've grown in a way that has like stayed not just true to who you are, but like exemplified, like grown even that, it just shows it even more. And so, man, it's really cool getting to sit and hear all these stories and hear you talk about this stuff. Cause man, we're just blessed to be able to, have seen you guys grow as much as you have, and kind of, go through, a lot of the same growing pains at times. And it's, man, it's just cool for us. Cause again, Kevin's talking about way back when it was, markers on a board, and now it's like, things are, to a whole different level for you guys. And so we're super stoked for everything that you guys are doing, and stoked for you, as an individual, because I think you've led your team really well. And I think everybody that I meet from Kize is always so cool, and just everything associated with the brand is just, you could tell that it's a good way to put this. I think with brands, the brand isn't about you. It's about the vision and the morals and the ideas that you have, the intentions that you have. And I think that's super cool. And I know I took a lot from this, just talking to you on some different ways that you view things. And this has been awesome, man. I just really thank you for coming on and sharing some of this with us.
Yeah, well, appreciate the time. And again, I've always been admired and inspired by you guys. And so again, this is an extra gift to me to get charged up to, again, to just really keep going.
Heck
to
yeah.
stay the course, run the race, run well, do it eloquently, and
or
can I say that eloquently? And try to do it with excellence. And again, that's really encouraging to me, because again, it's like we just really want to inspire and encourage people to really love and serve. And I always say, the real wealth is lived outside yourself. So again, if we can have people to be selfless and serve and work hard and be sacrificial, again, you feel like you get that back. And just to your kind of tithing or giving story, again, it's like finding those principles and giving and recognizing, like, maybe it was scary at first, or maybe it was hard, but like I feel better and I look better. And again, just encouraging people to keep going, because again, life can obviously be hard, but it's like you were made to do hard things.
Amen.
Everybody knows the best things are the hardest things and the most worthwhile. So again, made to live a rich and fulfilling and purposeful life. So yeah, we just want to play our part in that. So you guys keep doing your thing. So let us know how we can help. Let's do a big event. Let's do something cool.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And hit us up for the UPS baskets this year, the gifts for all your people.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's super
we'll,
cool.
We'll donate for that.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. Well, man, we are always super proud to have Kize bars on our shelves, man. I know I talk about them all the time. Obviously, I'm not in store as much as I used to, but I love it anytime someone grabs one or starts looking at them. I'm like, oh, do you like the Kize bars? And I get probably a little too excited, get a little too like young puppy on them. I'm like excited to talk to him about you guys, but man, super honored to be able to carry them in our stores and offer them to our customers. And man, appreciate the time that you've dedicated tonight to come on the podcast, because I know how busy you are and how many things are constantly on your plate, man. So sharing your stories and some of your wisdom is very much appreciated by me and I'm sure our listeners as well. And it was genuinely good to catch up with you, man. 'Cause I know
got me charged up.
yeah, we I know both of us have probably been through quite a few different experiences since the last time we got to catch up. So this was genuinely a lot of fun, man. And you actually for the future have my gears turning a little bit too. And I'm like, we're gonna do a defined nutrition bar eventually, and I think I know the guy. So no promises, no. I like mostly to our customers, don't come into the stores tomorrow asking for defined nutrition bars, because there's a lot of R&D process we have to go through first. So, but something that is very hopeful for in the future, man. I think that'd be really cool. So
Cool.
yeah,
Keep us posted, here to help.
Yeah. What episode is this? Yeah.
episode 48, I believe.
48.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, sweet. Well, thanks to everybody for listening. Thank you again for coming on. This was a blast, man. We'll have to have you on again. Yeah. Cool. All right. That's it.
All right. Thanks, guys.